What's with that attitude? Who do you think allows you to live?
I'm sorry.
You are in the position of being my wife. So just shut up and do what you're told, you scum!
How many times has it been like this? To be subjected to such abuse from a husband, who should be an equal partner. Suddenly, we were happy at the beginning of our marriage. But when did things turn out like this? In the midst of already difficult days, the worst happened. My husband's infidelity was revealed. My heart was covered in a dark abyss, and sadness and anger surged simultaneously. Treating people conveniently, and then cheating on your spouse. Absolutely unforgivable. You remember this. I will pay back double for all the suffering I have suffered so far. My name is Ginger Green, and I'm 28 years old. I've been married to Mark for almost 2 years. Mark works for a company headed by his father, and at the young age of 32, he already holds a high position. He is destined to become the next president, ensuring a promising future. Our encounter was nothing but destiny. I was working at a flower shop at the time and had been standing in the store that morning to serve customers. Then, Mark showed up as a guest and approached me.
Excuse me, I want to send flowers to my mother for her birthday. What do you recommend?
If it's for a birthday, yes. Carnations are a classic choice, but they are often chosen for Mother's Day too. Sweet peas and roses are also popular.
There are so many types, I'm not sure.
I see. Oh, how about hydrangeas? They have a lovely meaning, symbolizing family bonds and patient love. Or something else?
Gah!
I'm sorry, I got carried away.
No, go on. Listening to you talk doesn't seem boring at all.
Saying this, he smiled modestly. In just a few minutes, I was struck by how gently he laughed. A complete change from the cool impression I had had of him before. After that day, he began to visit our store regularly. Each time, I shared my knowledge of flowers with him to the fullest. He always seems to enjoy listening, making me naturally happy as well. 2 months after we met, something happened. He bought a bouquet of 12 roses. These 12 roses, also known as Darcy roses, have a tradition in Europe where men used to present 12 roses to their girlfriends. Each rose had meanings like affection and respect, symbolizing a pledge of all these feelings to the recipient, often used during proposals. While I was wrapping the bouquet, Mark confidently shared this knowledge. I knew that different numbers of roses had different meanings, but I was surprised by how much he had researched. After finishing the wrapping, he handed the bouquet directly to me. In a state of confusion, I said, "Huh?" And he clearly stated,
I like you. I want to marry you.
What? Marriage? Even if you say that suddenly.
What? Is there someone else? If there is, I will talk to them.
No, there isn't. There's no one, but why so suddenly?
If you don't like it, you don't have to accept it. But I really want you.
Mark. At that moment, with no lover and feeling the pressure in front of friends quickly getting married, I might have been confused, but maybe this was fate. If someone loves me this much, I thought I could surely be happy. With that in mind, I accepted his confession and started dating. It seems he had marriage in mind from the beginning. As he quickly brought up the topic of marriage, I was fed up with my parents asking me every time I turned them down, "Is there anyone you want to go out with?" Because of this, I readily accepted his offer. I was surprised when I heard that Mark was the next president of the company. but I was increasingly attracted to his unpretentious personality, the kind that would give his mother a bouquet of flowers on her birthday. However, I began to feel uneasy about my husband's behavior. The first red flag was about 6 months into our marriage. In a strangely irritated state, my husband came home and roughly threw his bag onto the sofa. "Welcome back. What happened?" As I inquired, he raised his voice.
I just made a little mistake at work, and my old man got mad at me. Why the heck?
"Oh, really? But isn't it quite serious for your dad to get angry? Must have been something important."
What? So you are saying I'm the one at fault?
"Oh no, it's not that." I tried to laugh it off, but in the next moment, the TV remote came flying. The remote hit the wall, making a dull thud, and landed on the floor. Did my husband just throw the remote at me? Overwhelmed by fear, I collapsed on the spot, looking down at me with a cold stare. My husband uttered in a voice I'd never heard before.
Don't get too carried away, okay?
Mark?
Just because you managed to marry the future president, don't think you're safe. If you keep acting up, I will.
What are you saying? Why would you suddenly talk about throwing things away? I was just worried about you, Mark.
Shut up. It doesn't mean anything for an incompetent person like you to worry about me. Got it? You're just my wife. Don't interfere with my work. Just shut up.
This incident was the turning point, revealing my husband's true nature. Gradually, his verbal abuse became a daily routine. I've lost count of how many times I've heard words like good for nothing, stupid, and useless. Even now, after a year and a half of marriage, nothing has changed. I've become nothing more than a housekeeper, wearing the mask of a wife. Yet, the reason I have endured this marriage life is because of my in-laws. They treated me like their own daughter, especially my father-in-law, who has always seems to want a daughter. He keeps in touch with me regularly. Just the other day, while doing household chores, I received a call from my father-in-law. "Hello, this is Ginger."
Oh, Ginger. Sorry to call out of the blue. How are you doing?
"I'm fine, thank you. How are you both, Mom and Dad?"
We are doing great. My wife and I were thinking about going to lunch with you soon.
"Really? I'd love to join."
Great to hear that.
My heart naturally lightened at the sound of my father-in-law's happy voice. Upon sensing something, my father-in-law formally inquired,
Ginger, are you getting along well with Mark?
Yes. It's more like I'm lacking in some way."
That's not true. Ginger, you're a well-raised young lady. We'll understand if we talk.
"I'm not sure about that."
Ginger, if anything happens with Mark, feel free to consult with me. I promise to always support you. I may be Mark's father, but I'm also your father. If you are in trouble, I will definitely help you. Contact me anytime.
"Dad." Touched by his kind words, I almost shed tears. Suppressing the rising tears, I thanked my father-in-law and ended the call. "Dad, why did he bring this up now? Did I unintentionally reveal something in my voice? If I were to consult Mark's father about Mark's verbal abuse and Mark found out, just imagining it makes me shiver. For me, my husband has become a source of fear. One day, while cleaning my husband's room, I noticed a closet was half open. It seems the coat's hem got cold, causing a slight wrinkle in the coat. Should I take this to the dry cleaners? I'm planning to pick up dry cleaning anyway. As a precaution, I checked if there was anything in the coat pocket. Then, I found a piece of paper inside the pocket. What? What is this? It's a receipt from a dubious place often visited by couples. The date indicates a stay a week ago for 12 hours. On that day, my husband claimed he had sudden overtime and would stay at the company. In that moment, I collapsed to the floor. Never did I imagine that my own husband would be cheating. Mark, why? Why would he cheat? No matter how much verbal abuse he threw at me, I never doubted his love for me. At that time, he proposed with a bouquet of roses, and that gesture couldn't have been a lie. However, I can't forgive cheating. He betrayed me. Looking back, there were strange occurrences, sudden increase in overtime, constantly checking his phone, and a faint scent of soap despite supposedly him staying at the company. Now all those signs were clear evidence of infidelity. There's no room for leniency or consideration towards him anymore. This moment was when the trust I had built up for him crumbled. Unforgivable. After insulting people so much, he was cheating in secret? Just mocking others and quietly betraying me. But I won't just cry and accept it. I would definitely get revenge. From that day on, I decided to monitor my husband's behavior. I start following him when he leaves home, and after he disappeared to his office, I wait at the cafe near the entrance. Then, as expected, his lies became more and more obvious.
Today, I will be working overtime and staying at the company.
Such a message arrives, but he leaves promptly at the regular quitting time. Following him, I discover that he's meeting with a female colleague at the station 2 stops ahead. The two of them, arms entwined, head toward the location on the receipt. They spent the night together, and the next morning, as they emerged, they exchanged passionate kisses near the entrance. I continue to capture the whole affair with photos and videos. Regardless of it being for evidence, witnessing the scene of infidelity from a man I once loved is not a pleasant experience. After several weeks of observations, a substantial amount of evidence of the affair had accumulated. I waited for my husband to return to discuss it with him. I have something important to discuss. Sending that text, Mark returned home just past 11 p.m.
What's this about?
He opened his mouth with apparent annoyance, and I immediately broached the subject. Mark, are you cheating?
Huh? What are you talking about all of a sudden?
I know everything. Look, here's the evidence. I showed him the photos and videos I had collected on my phone. He briefly looked flustered, but quickly regained his composure.
Huh? And what's the big deal about this?
What? Why are you acting so nonchalant? This is undeniable evidence of your affair.
You just took these with your own phone, right? That's not evidence of anything. Ha ha ha.
No way. You did have a relationship with another woman, didn't you?
Oh well, if you're going that far, fine. It's over.
Huh? At that, Mark took out the divorce form he had prepared in advance and thrust it in front of me.
There you go. I will divorce you as you wish. Just get out quickly.
Wait. The conversation isn't over yet.
I cheated because you're not attractive. Got it? Get out, you trash.
Understood. I immediately packed my things and left the house. As I left, I heard Mark's voice saying,
You're finished too.
But I closed the door without saying anything. Apologies to my parents, who were so happy about the marriage, but with nowhere to go. I reluctantly returned to my parents' house. On the way back, I signed the divorce papers handed to me and submitted them to City Hall. I also didn't forget to print out all the evidence of the affairs I had overlooked and sent them in an envelope to my in-laws. The next day, I quickly received a call from them.
Ginger, is the content of that envelope true?
My father-in-law raised his voice at the outset. I'm sorry, Dad, for surprising you like this. After questioning him about the affair the other day, Mark kicked me out of the house.
What? And the person in the photos is one of our female employees.
Yes, but Mark said, what you took with your phone is not evidence.
There's no way he'd say that. To let you, Ginger, go through something like this. Leave it to me. I will make sure he pays for this.
I'm sorry, Dad. Please take care of it. To be honest, it was a gamble on how my father-in-law would react. He had said he would help, but accepting his son's infidelity, especially as the future company president, was not something that could be easily tolerated. If Mark's infidelity is revealed, my father-in-law's credibility in the company will be at stake. Worst case scenario, it might be swept under the rug. Half expecting the worst, I sent the evidence photos, but it seemed luck was on my side. A few days later, I received a call from Mark after a long time. Hello?
Hey, what the hell? Are you kidding me? Making up infidelity to my old man? What the hell are you doing? Do you understand your position?
Calm down and stop using weird language. I just reported the despicable actions of the future president.
What? Because of you, I got fired from the company, you know.
Oh, you got fired? But is that my fault?
You snitched on me to my old man, didn't you? I won't forgive you, you scum. You ruined my career. Thanks to you, the chance to be the next president is down the drain.
Apparently, my father-in-law took the appropriate steps to deal with Mark. My bet turned out to be a good one. I have nothing but gratitude for my father-in-law. But Mark, on the other hand, has never apologized and continues to abuse me. My anger at him reached its peak. Don't be silly. You still blame others for this situation? All this happened because you cheated on your wife while you were married. How could you say such a thing after betraying me?
Hey you. Who are you talking to? You should know your place.
What? You're just unemployed now, right? With the title of next president taken away, you've been fired, and there's no social value left in you. Now that your father's connections are gone, you're just an incompetent fool. You're nothing but a piece of trash who hangs on to your father's wishes.
You think you can just say whatever you want?
Regardless of what happens, I will never forgive you. I will make you suffer many times more than what I have been through, so be prepared. From now on, you will live without anyone's help forever. For eternity. Serves you right.
Hey, wait a minute. The conversation isn't over yet.
Goodbye. Take care, or rather, struggle on your own, okay? Before he could call me back, I blocked his number. Finally, peace returned to my life. Afterward, I demanded compensation from Mark, who had been fired from the company. His affair partner, also married, ended up paying compensation to her husband as well. Originally, not the saving type, Mark had no significant savings and ended up in debt to pay the compensation. Now, he works multiple part-time jobs, including night shifts at the living factory, struggling to make ends meet. For someone who had grown up without any financial worries as the son of the president, his current life must be unexpected. But I feel no sympathy. It's all the consequence of his own actions. As for me, I opened up to my parents, and I ended up staying at home for a while. My mom and dad warmly welcomed me, embracing me gently, saying, "We are glad you're safe." Now I've returned to that flower shop where I used to work, enjoying fulfilling days. Although I've become divorced, I find more than enough happiness without getting married again. The painful past cannot be erased, but I can use it to shape a better future. I aspire to live a better life based on the lessons learned from this experience.
Disgusting! There's no way I'm handing over the inheritance to this child. You see? Now get out of here. Really, they just say whatever they want. Not knowing is scary. Fine, then I'll just file for alimony. Say what? Well, you've been having an affair, haven't you? My husband just gaped, speechless. I'm Lila. I've been married to Ryan, who's 4 years older, for a long time. He's the third son of a wealthy family, but you wouldn't know it from his demeanor. When we met, we were both fresh in our careers, not really thinking about marriage. He was my solace through the hard work. And before we knew it, we were considering marriage after settling into our jobs. I was surprised when he first mentioned his family. Even I, from the countryside, had heard of his family's corporations. I was speechless. And he just laughed, saying, "But I'm the third son, so the family business isn't my concern." It made sense. His 2 older brothers were already involved in the business, and he worked in a different field. The brothers were better, and the parents never asked Ryan to consider taking over their business. At our marriage meeting, his parents were neither for or against the union, as if they couldn't care less. See, I told you. I am not the expected one. I smiled, but I worried about the complex feelings behind his eyes. Our marriage was peaceful. Our relationship with his family was distant, with no contact from their end. It felt lonely, but compared to the typical in-law problems, we were fortunate. However, everything changed when Ryan's father, Tony, fell ill. About my family home. One evening, he brought it up with an uneasy air. He looked like he had something very important to say, and I listened quietly. My mom asked for help with Dad's situation. I had an inkling. Wanting to help your parents is natural, but what he said next shocked me. I'm thinking of quitting my job and returning home. I was puzzled. Returning home? What about my opinion? The right thing to say would be, I want to return, but what do you think? But I put myself in his shoes. If my parents were ill, I would be distraught and want to help. But still, we were a married couple, not individuals. Shouldn't we consider each other's feelings? These thoughts crossed my mind in an instant. Yet, I didn't want our relationship to crumble over this, so I let it go, missing a crucial point about his character. I understand, but we're a couple. I have my job too, and going back home means I can't continue working. I wish you had discussed it with me instead of just telling me. Sorry. I'm just overwhelmed. Mom never relied on me before, always seeing me as an incapable son. I believed that was his true feeling. He never explicitly said it, but he seemed happy his mother finally relied on him. Later, I met his mother, Mary, after almost a year. She looked frail and weak, and Ryan seemed genuinely worried about her. Lila, you must think I'm selfish, calling you both back like this. I'm sorry. We don't know how much longer Tony has. When I thought of you too, I didn't want to have any regrets. I want to cherish my family. There are positions ready for you in the company. Come whenever you're ready. Tony might not have much time left. Mary was, after all, a stranger. I felt cold, thinking so bluntly. We were always treated like heir, the third son and his wife. Suddenly being called family felt insincere, but Ryan, with tears in his eyes, looked at his mother. Mom, it's okay. We're discussing it, and we'll come up with a positive answer. He was completely taken in. Eventually, Ryan and I quit our jobs and joined Tony's company, agreeing to live with him. I had no regrets about quitting, joining the company, or moving in. However, being deceived was another story. It turned out the promise of working at Tony's company was a blatant lie. I only did miscellaneous tasks there for less than 3 months. Then, I was relegated to Tony's caretaker. It was a total betrayal. Lila, thank you for your hard work. Now, you will be taking care of my husband. 3 months into living together, I felt something was off. My job at Tony's company was menial, despite my background in planning. I had some experience under my belt, but that never meant anything at this place. I never thought I'd end up as a caretaker. What do you mean by that? I asked Mary for clarification. She scowled and sneered at me. Typical of a girl from third-rate university, unable to understand simple things. It's caregiving. What else could it mean? I am not asking for a definition of caregiving. Do I really need to spell it out for you from 1 to 10? How dare you speak to me like that? So rude. Rude? I didn't intend to be. Talking back is rude enough. I am Ryan's mother, you know. I know that, but that wasn't my point. I was asking if they planned to use me as a caregiver from the start. Someone of your level wouldn't be of any help in his company. It's reserved for top university graduates, not for you. I did graduate from a decent private university, but it paled compared to Ryan's brother's alma maters. From her tone, it was clear they summoned us just for Tony's care. Frustrated, I locked myself in my room, and later I told Ryan everything his mother said. His response was, Lila, you're an employee of Dad's company. You signed the contract. As an employee, you're supposed to fulfill your duties, including caregiving. Are you serious? What do you mean? He was so pleased to be relied upon by his mother that he sided with her instead of defending me. I was alone, without him as my ally. The logical choice was to divorce and free myself, but my altruistic side kicked in. His mother, who had abandoned her ailing husband, left him in my care. Despite never receiving any kindness from them, I couldn't abandon the frail old man in front of me. I was a stranger after all. I could leave whenever I reached my limit. With that mindset, I started caring for Tony. Good morning, Tony. I'm looking forward to working with you and getting to know you more. That was how it began. I noticed his blanket hadn't been washed. Flipping it over, it was dirty. He had been neglected since needing care. Neither his wife nor children looked after him. I was saddened by the thought. Let's wash and dry your blanket today. It's nice out. He just nodded blankly, but it's impossible for me to lift him since he's bedridden. However, I realized that leaving things as they were could lead to hygiene issues. After watching some caregiving videos, I attempted to lift him and felt something strange. He was surprisingly light. I could easily lift him. Despite my initial suspicions, I cleaned his room and did the household chores. The only regular visitor was his secretary. A month of one-sided conversations passed, until one day, Tony sighed deeply. "You're quite resilient, aren't you?" "Huh?" I turned around, only to find him sitting up on the bed, smiling and looking at me. "Tony, you can talk?" "Sorry about that. My mind has been clear all along, just physically frail. I didn't expect you to stay so long." "Thank you." He apologized, clearly weakened. "No, it's not like that. It's more like, I guess I'm being stubborn or something. I definitely feel like I've been tricked, but, you know. It's hard to admit I simply felt sorry for the old man in front of me." "Did I look that pitiful?" I stayed silent, but he seemed to understand my expression. "Your parents must be wonderful people. My children never lifted a finger to help their fallen father. Perhaps I raised them wrong." His words left me with a bittersweet smile. "Thank you for talking to me, even when I didn't respond. Your humming and stories were comforting." I felt embarrassed for singing carelessly. "Would you mind listening to my story today?" "Go ahead, Tony." He shared his past. He had a woman he intended to marry, but to save his nearly bankrupt company, he was arranged to marry Mary. The woman disappeared silently. I found her later, but she had already passed away from illness. "Why did you search for her?" "I wanted to marry her, to leave everything and be with her. I married Mary, who comforted me in my grief, but somewhere I lost my way. Now she's probably infatuated with her lover." Mary's affair was shocking, but it made sense why she never came home. "Sorry for the unpleasant talk. Lila, could you stay by my side a bit longer?" Initially, I approached my relationship with Tony thinking I could leave any time, but eventually he became a part of my life. Surprisingly, I didn't find the caregiving burdensome. I was simply fulfilling his requests. However, as time went on, his health deteriorated, and a year later, he was almost entirely bedridden. Despite his physical decline, he remained mentally sharp. I continued to tend to his small requests every day. During this time, Mary rarely showed her face, and Ryan, my husband, also stayed away. My attempts to contact him went unanswered. My love for Ryan had dried up. He didn't even come to see his own father, and left me alone in this house. I decisively hired a private investigator and found out about his affair. I wasn't shocked. Perhaps it was a woman's intuition, but I had a rough idea about his actions. I decided to divorce him and leave this house after Tony's passing. Amidst these plans, Tony had a seizure and was rushed to the hospital. Once stable, he began issuing various instructions to his secretary and lawyer. He called me to his hospital room and meticulously explained what would happen with the inheritance, outlining a plan that would send his neglectful wife and 3 sons spiraling. A few months later, Tony peacefully passed away. I was there with his secretary for his last moments. Mary and his 3 sons showed up without a tear, immediately discussing funeral arrangements. Mary turned to me with a smirk. "It's good you could fulfill your duty as a wife. I thought you were useless, but you found your purpose. Now you have no relation to our family anymore. We'll handle everything, so please leave." I looked at Ryan, who wore a smug smile. "That's the situation, so we're good with the divorce, right?" Don't worry, I'll give you a fair amount of money. Just don't talk about the inheritance, okay? Disgusting! Thinking about the inheritance. I would never give it to someone like you. You know now, so leave. Really, they just say whatever they want. Not knowing is scary. Fine, then I'll just file for alimony. Say what? Well, you've been having an affair, haven't you? He just gaped, speechless. Mary was caught off guard and had the same reaction. I'm actually surprised that he didn't think I was onto him. Wait a minute, the fault is yours for not being able to get pregnant. No, that's not it. Regardless of whether I can get pregnant or not, infidelity is wrong. I have the right to claim alimony. You see, Ryan has a child now. What? Mom, stop. I hadn't been aware of this development. She had just given me concrete proof of the affair. Oh, there's a child. Congratulations. Ryan, make sure you pay the alimony. Let's go with the standard $70,000. Pay it now and we can divorce. $70,000? That much? It's a small price for a divorce. $60,000 for you and $10,000 for her. That's the going rate. Well, he looked awkwardly at his mother. Fine, that's a small price to get rid of this nuisance. I have fulfilled my role, so I'll leave. How obedient. After all, you're just after the money. Don't ever show your face to us again. We'll see about that. I'm sure I'll be seeing you in a few days. I quietly left the room. Ryan paid the alimony in 5 installments over the next few days, and we divorced. I'm free now. Later, I was called into a meeting room by Tony's company's legal counsel, where I found Mary and Ryan with visibly strange expressions. Why is Lila here? It's the president's will. Tony wanted me to witness everything to the end. Mary and her family reluctantly complied with the lawyer's prompts. The lawyer began. The next president will be the eldest son, Mike. Regarding the estate division, Mary interrupted. Wait a minute. The eldest son's name is Roger, not Mike. No, Mike is the son of the president and Erica. My name is Mary, not Erica. Yes, I am aware. Mary, realizing the existence of a hidden child, demanded, Bring that ugly child here! The company should be passed to the eldest son, Roger. I am the eldest son, Mike, and I will take over the company as per my father's wishes. What? You? Yes, I am Mike, the first son. The former in-law family was stunned. Just seeing their reaction was satisfying for me. I knew everything, as Tony had confided in me after regaining consciousness in the hospital. However, he himself had only learned of Mike's existence years after Erica's death. They met during a visit to her grave. Mike had been dedicatedly supporting Tony, and once I heard the whole story, it all made sense. Tony's decision to leave the company to Mike, someone empathetic and respected, felt right to me. Mike truly understands people's pain. A company leader shouldn't be mired in self-interest, but should instead be empathetic and respected. He perfectly fits this ideal. Mary's sons, on the other hand, were driven purely by self-interest. Anyone would agree that Mike should be the next president. That's invalid. The proceedings have already been completed. Well, we can overturn that with a lawsuit, no matter how much it costs. Plus, there's no proof that man is actually the child of a woman and my husband. My husband was deceived. He's too good-natured. Yes, Tony was indeed too good-natured. So he was deceived by your false kindness, the very person who tore apart his relationship with her. How dare you! Mike has been acknowledged, and DNA testing has been conducted. It's been proven that he's indeed the former president's son. As for the lawsuit, ma'am, you and your children have embezzled company funds. If you initiate a lawsuit, we will consider filing a countersuit for embezzlement. Investigations have revealed over $900,000 is unaccounted for funds. We will first demand repayment of these funds. There is a reserved portion in the inheritance, so some will go to you and your children. But we need to clarify the financial situation first. This was all part of the plan Mike developed at Tony's request. With the evidence already gathered, there was no escape for her. It was pathetic to see her standing alone at the forefront while her 3 sons stood behind, faces pale and shrinking away. They were clearly unfit to lead the company. 2 months after this meeting, their hidden assets, including embezzled money, vacation homes, cars, and luxurious goods, were seized, and everything except money spent on food and drink was returned to the company. Of course, the 3 brothers were fired. They are trying to make ends meet with little money. According to Mike, Mary was now living in a rental with her eldest son's family, being treated as an unwanted burden by her daughter-in-law. As for my ex-husband, he tried to reconcile several times, but I refused. He didn't extend a helping hand during the toughest time of my life. I owe him nothing. I was deceived too. That child she was carrying wasn't mine. You get it, don't you? I was just wanted to protect it. But since it isn't mine, there's no need to protect it. Give me another chance. I promise I cherish you this time. No thank you. That was our last conversation. I heard he was now working in traffic control, at least showing some willingness to work. 6 months later, I started my second life. I was now working in the planning department at Mike's company, grateful to Tony for not only arranging the job, but also giving me a substantial gift before his death, tax included. This, however, remained a secret known only to the lawyer, Mike, and myself. Even though Tony was no longer my father-in-law after the divorce, I regularly visited his grave to pay my respects. Thank you, Tony.
The intense sunlight beats down on me. The sweat that had been gushing out earlier stopped and palpitations and nausea set in. It's unpleasant. Maybe I got heat stroke because I've been working outside for a long time. Perhaps it wasn't such a great idea to tackle balcony cleaning in the sweltering heat, even with my husband's support. It seems like it'll be over soon, but I can't even stand up anymore due to the nausea. I call out my husband's name from the balcony. At that moment, my consciousness faded and I collapsed. Simultaneously, my husband, who appeared, looks down at me and says, "If you're feeling that unwell, I'll take you to the hospital." Huh? Really? Yeah, I'll even bring the car out, so hop in quickly. Feeling as if I were about to throw up, I managed to get into my car. However, on the way home to the hospital, my husband suddenly dragged me out of the car. "I have an urgent matter. Go to the hospital by yourself." Huh? As my husband's car kept getting farther away, I found myself in a difficult situation, able to do nothing but pray. I don't want to be left here. Anyway, I need to hurry to the hospital. Right after that, my husband and I would face an unexpected turn of events. My name is Kelsey Miller. I'm 29 years old. I am an ordinary office worker working for a generic corporation. We only got married 2 years ago after my husband's pursuit. Our relationship evolved through work because my company had business dealings with his. We can understand and relate to each other well because our job responsibilities are similar. Because my company is larger in scale, overtime tends to be more frequent on my end. However, he understands the situation, especially during emergencies. Due to overtime, there are often times when I can't prepare dinner, and household chores end up being postponed to the next day. Yet William doesn't express dissatisfaction or blame me for these situations. However, that doesn't mean he takes over household chores when I work overtime. It seems he's not inclined to do the chores himself, even though he doesn't blame me. During the first year of marriage, I didn't mind much, but as we passed the second year, I gradually began to feel dissatisfaction with my husband. When I came back home the other day after overtime, I found my husband lying around in the sofa watching TV. In the sink, the remains of cup noodles and side dishes he had eaten were left as they were.
Welcome back. Thanks for your hard work with overtime today.
It's nice to hear words of appreciation, but that's not what I want. Exhausted both physically and mentally from consecutive overtime, I inadvertently expressed what was on my mind. Hey, William, can't you clean up after yourself for the portions you ate?
Huh? What's gotten into you? You've never said anything like that before.
I don't want to do housework when I come home tired after work. It's fine when I come back on time, but doing chores after overtime is a bit tough for me.
I'm not asking you to do it, am I? Do it the next day on your day off.
Either way, I don't like the assumption that I have to do everything. Why should I be the only one burdened with household chores in our marriage? I can't help but get emotional, and tears well up. I thought he would understand by now. That's what I believed. But he sighed loudly and unleashed the unimaginable.
You say you're the only one, but it's normal for women to do household chores, right?
Huh? What are you saying?
My mom was the same way, you know? She always took care of the house.
That's because your mother was a housewife, right? I'm a full-time employee just like you, William.
That doesn't matter. It's common sense for women to do household chores. Didn't you know that when you got married?
I didn't know that. I just loved being with you, William. That's why I wanted to live together. I tearfully pled with my husband, but he doesn't change his expression at all. Moreover, he wears an openly annoyed expression.
If you love me, shouldn't you be willing to put effort into household chores for my sake? I also want to continue working even after marriage, and I let you work without saying anything.
What do you mean? Do you dislike me or something?
A wife prioritizing work over returning home early is abnormal, you know. A normal guy would have divorced you by now. Don't you understand that I've been able to maintain our relationship because I'm kind?
I'm not prioritizing work over you. I thought that both of us working would allow us to save money for the future.
After all, money is more important than me, right? Well, it's fine, but I'm feeling really put off.
It's not like that. From that day on, my husband's attitude changed completely. When I come home from work, there's no longer the welcoming greeting that used to be there. He doesn't help with household chores or assist on weekends. For some reason, my husband's return home time gradually became later. My husband is closer to his office than I am to our apartment, so until now, he has been home before I am. Lately, my husband has been coming home noticeably later. Moreover, he started returning past midnight without any concern. As a result, I naturally end up spending more time at home. In the past, on days off, we used to enjoy drinking together, but now, those moments of couple time have significantly dwindled. He's late again today. I wait for my husband to talk to him, but even after midnight, he doesn't return. I waited until around 1 a.m., but since there was no sign of him coming back, I went to sleep first. The next morning, when I woke up, my husband was on the sofa in his suit. I tidied up the beer can that he probably left half empty, despite feeling disgusted by his sloppy appearance. At that moment, I noticed his smartphone under the sofa was blinking. This blinking is probably indicating a new message. Usually I wouldn't pay much attention, but for some reason it bothered me this day. Apprehensively, I picked up my husband's smartphone and secretly placed his finger on the fingerprint sensor to unlock it. When I checked the contents, his usual messaging app was displayed. Maybe there is something not good in here. With determination, I opened the messaging app. However, there were no traces of suspicious exchanges. Thank goodness. I was overthinking it. Then I realized that the notification I just received was apparently not from the Messages app, but from the Mail folder. When I tapped the email folder slowly, emails were categorized into work, private, and more. In one of the categorized folders, there was one with a heart emoji. Apprehensively, I opened it, and there were traces of an unbelievable exchange. Are you kidding me? Is he cheating? In the folder with the heart emoji, there were signs that my husband was exchanging messages with someone who appeared to be his affair partner. The contents included phrases like, "I love you" and "I want to be together soon." The moment I saw those, everything went dark in front of my eyes. Could it be that William is cheating? Since when? Why would he cheat when we're married? His attitude changed since that conversation we had, but could it be from that time? As I traced back the exchanges, it seemed their relationship had started quite a while ago. Initially, they seemed to go out for meals together, but after he became distant with me, there were records of my husband actively inviting her, staying at her place until late at night. I transferred those exchanges to my own smartphone and headed to the detective agency on the same day. There, I decided to request an investigation into my husband's affair. After that, I tried to maintain as normal a life as possible so my husband wouldn't suspect anything. Even William probably doesn't think I know about his affair. Although I didn't pay much attention before, he spends significantly more time looking at his smartphone compared to before. Presumably, he's in contact with his affair partner. 2 weeks later, I received a message from the detective agency saying, "We've gathered enough evidence." The photos presented by the investigator conclusively proved my husband's affair. Surprisingly, there was no shock, just overwhelming anger. I took the evidence home and decided to discuss the matter with both sets of parents involved. On the weekend, a few days later, I asked them to come over without my husband knowing. As I cleaned the room to welcome them, finally in the early afternoon, my husband returned home.
By the way, you haven't been taking care of the balcony lately, have you?
Oh, yeah. I've been busy recently and I might have neglected the cleaning.
Make sure to get it done. If the moms come and it's not in proper shape, I'll be embarrassed too.
If that's the case, couldn't you help a bit?
I always say it, don't I? Household chores are a woman's job.
Having uttered those words, my husband left the living room and returned to his own room. Soon, this relationship will come to an end. He still doesn't know that. I reluctantly went out to the balcony and started cleaning. Unexpectedly, intense sunlight made my sweat stream down incessantly. I wanted to take more frequent breaks, but I couldn't stop because my husband checked on me periodically. To make matters worse, he told me,
"Don't come inside until you're finished,"
and closed the balcony door. I had no choice but to continue working for about an hour. Meanwhile, my health was approaching its limits. The strong sunlight mercilessly beat down on me. The sweat that had been pouring a moment ago stopped, and dizziness and nausea welled up. It feels awful. Could it be heat stroke because I've been working outside for so long? It seems like I'm almost done, but the discomfort is so overwhelming that I can't even stand anymore. I called out my husband's name from the balcony. At that moment, my consciousness faded, and I collapsed. Simultaneously, my husband appeared, looking down at me and said,
What's wrong? You haven't finished yet.
No, it's not that. I feel nauseous. It might be heat stroke.
Heat stroke? If you're feeling that unwell, I'll take you to the hospital, really.
Eh? Really?
Yeah, I'll get the car out, so hurry up and get in.
I didn't expect my husband to say that, and I felt a little relieved. While feeling on the verge of vomiting, I somehow got into the car. After driving for about 5 minutes, the speed suddenly began to drop. Then my husband stopped the car, got out of the driver's seat, and abruptly pulled me out of the car. Wait, William, what are you doing?
Urgent matters came up. Go to the hospital by yourself.
Huh?
Honestly, I don't care what happens to you. I'm going.
Wait, please, William. As if to drown out my voice, my husband's car kept getting farther away. I had forgotten about my physical discomfort, consumed by anger toward my husband. Leaving me stranded like this is unacceptable. After cheating on me, he treats me like this when I'm unwell. I will never forgive him. I will definitely get revenge. Slowly standing up, I began to walk, suppressing the nausea. It took me about an hour to reach the hospital on my own. However, my strength must have reached its limit. While completing the reception process, I collapsed. I was immediately admitted, and a few hours later, my father and mother rushed to the hospital. Geez, I was really surprised. Suddenly hospitalized with heat stroke. Comforting my almost teary mother, I apologized. I'm sorry for causing you worry. I went on and told them everything. Actually, William is cheating on me. I wanted you to come to the house to talk about this.
What? Cheating? William is?
I had the detective agency investigate, and the evidence is in that bag.
Is this a joke? I found it strange that William didn't come to the hospital.
On the way to the hospital, he forcibly dragged me out of the car, so I walked to the hospital on my own.
No way.
My mother had a pained expression on the verge of tears. On the other hand, my father's face turned red with anger.
Kelsey, can I borrow these photos for a moment?
Huh? Yeah, sure.
Thanks. I won't let that guy do as he pleases.
Dad? While I didn't quite understand the meaning of his words, it was easy to imagine that my father was quite angry. He told me to rest and left the hospital with my mother. I informed my husband that I had been hospitalized and decided to focus on treatment for the time being. After receiving various treatments, I finally recovered a few days later. My mother came to pick me up, and she drove me home. I'm back. When I opened the front door, there were a large number of shoes scattered about. Clearly, not my husband's. Hastily heading to the living room, I found my father and in-laws there. Next to them, my husband beaten up and a pale-faced woman were slumped over. What's going on? When I asked, my father spoke coldly.
After visiting you, Kelsey, I went to see William's parents, to show them evidence of the affair.
Is that so?
Yeah, and then William's parents came to this apartment with us, and wouldn't you know it, William and this woman were inside. You informed him about your hospitalization, didn't you?
Could it be that he knew I was hospitalized and brought his mistress into our home?
That's exactly what happened. Thanks to that, we were able to witness the affair scene with our own eyes.
It seems that the beating my husband received left him in a terrible state. Even my mother and mother-in-law, who are usually so kind to me, stared at him with a devilish look on their faces. My husband, perhaps no longer able to bear their attitude, complained to me with tears in his eyes.
I didn't mean it, Kelsey. It wasn't like I was serious about that relationship. This was just a fling.
A fling? After all those messages about wanting to be together quickly?
It was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. What I truly love is stability.
The affair partner, reacting to my husband's words, started making a fuss. Amidst their quarrel echoing through the room, I slammed my hand on the table, silencing them. You've got to be kidding me. Do you really love me? Then why did you leave me there in such a bad shape? There was even a chance I could have died. Despite that, you prioritized your affair over me. And that's not all.
Wait, it's not what you think. At that time, she told me to come quickly.
Wasn't it just an excuse to visit her place? You intended to drop me off from the beginning. You expect me to believe the words of a scumbag like you now? Save your lies for someone who cares. I don't want scum like you interfering with my life anymore. Stay away from me at all costs.
Oh no, wait a minute, Kelsey. Don't divorce me.
After my husband said that, I took out the divorce papers from my bag. I had received them from the city office on the way back from the hospital. I slammed the divorce papers in front of my husband and then went back to my parents' house. With the corporation of my in-laws later on, a completed divorce form was sent. I signed it and submitted it to the city office. We were officially able to dissolve our marital relationship. After that, I consulted a lawyer and demanded compensation from both William and his affair partner. The affair partner, who was living paycheck to paycheck with a part-time job, struggled to make ends meet with the repayments. Eventually, she had to rely on her parents, and it led to the inevitable breakup with William. On the other hand, news of William's affair and divorce quickly spread in the company. Although he didn't get fired, unable to endure the cold attitude from those around him, he eventually resigned on his own. His own parents disowned him, and he is now working part-time jobs. Unable to live in the apartment where we used to reside, he moved to a one-room apartment in a less affluent neighborhood. He seems to be looking for a new job, but finding one has been challenging, and he continues to lead a precarious lifestyle. A month has passed since then, and I left my parents' house to rent an apartment near my workplace. Now I find fulfillment in my daily life focusing on my job. Happiness isn't solely about being with someone you love. I have learned this firsthand. From now on, I want to live a wonderful life, prioritizing my own feelings.